It's funny how people talk about life-changing moments like they come with dramatic background music and a warm spotlight from the heavens. That's crap. In real life, they sneak up on you in the most boring, stupid ways. Like a broken alarm clock, or a late bus, or being exactly 5 minutes behind your usual routine. That morning started like any other Wednesday. I wasn't planning on cheating death before my first coffee. Honestly, I was just pissed about the alarm. It had one job, and it failed me. I remember lying there, blinking at the ceiling like some idiot who can't process what 8:12 on the clock means. My bus usually came at 8:20. My office was 25 minutes away. I was supposed to be in by 9 sharp. On a good day, I was at my desk by 8:50, sipping cheap break room coffee, pretending to care about small talk. But that morning, I was still in boxers at 8:12. Shit, I muttered, rolling out of bed. My cat, Steve, gave me that look. The look that says, "You're pathetic, human." Steve's good at that. I threw on a pair of black slacks I didn't iron, a button-down that probably still smelled like yesterday's stress, and shoes I didn't untie the night before. I was half-dressed and brushing my teeth like a guy who thinks foam running down his chin is a normal look. When I checked the clock again, it said 8:19. Perfect, I said to no one in particular. Just in time to miss the bus. I grabbed my bag, slammed the door, and sprinted down the block like I was auditioning for a Nike commercial. When I reached the bus stop, the electronic sign blinked in that smug, emotionless way. Delay. 7 minutes. I wanted to punch it. Not hard, just enough to feel something. Now, here's the thing. Normally, I'm one of those boringly punctual people. You could set your watch by my morning routine. My coworker Gina even called me Clockwork Tom. I used to hate it. Not anymore. Anyway, while I was standing there at the bus stop, sweating in my cheap dress shirt, an older guy in a brown jacket gave me a nod. He's one of those neighborhood regulars. We never talked much, but we shared silent suffering every morning. "Bus late again," he said, shaking his head. "Yeah," I replied, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Because why would anything work properly today? He chuckled. "You'll survive, kid. It's just a bus." If only he knew. The bus finally crawled up the street like it had arthritis. I got on, flashed my card, and collapsed in the second row. A kid with headphones blasting something loud enough to make my fillings vibrate sat across from me. A woman behind me was on speakerphone, screaming at someone named Tony. And, of course, the driver decided to take the scenic route because God forbid we arrive on time. By the time we pulled up near my building, it was 9:05. Now, if you work in an office, you know that being 5 minutes late doesn't make you a criminal. But it feels like a crime. People don't say anything, but they look. That quiet judgment. That tiny eyebrow twitch. The "oh, someone's not a team player today" vibe. I was already rehearsing some lame excuse. Something like, "Bus got stuck behind a tractor parade." Yeah, that'd work. But the second I stepped off the bus and looked at the building, I knew something was off. There was this cluster of people standing outside, near the revolving doors, phones in hand, whispering to each other like extras in a disaster movie. And a security guard, big guy named Carl, was standing at the entrance, one arm out like he was holding back an invisible zombie horde. I slowed down. Not because I sensed danger or anything noble like that. I just didn't want to barge into a weird situation. Carl saw me and raised his hand. "Hold up, Tom," he said. "Don't come in yet." "What's going on?" I asked, breathing heavier than I should have after one block of brisk walking. He pointed up. "Take a look." At first, I didn't get it. The lobby looked normal. Glass doors, reception desk, that big, ugly plant Janet insisted made the space inviting. But then I saw it. Right there on the floor, or what was left of it, was a shattered glass light fixture the size of a small fridge. Big, fancy chandelier-style thing that hung from the ceiling above the entrance. Now it looked like someone had dropped a crystal bomb. "Holy shit," I whispered before I could stop myself. "Yeah," Carl said, nodding slowly. "Came down at 8:58. Whole damn thing." I looked at him, then at the glass, then at where I usually was at 8:58. Right under it. For a second, everything kind of narrowed. The world didn't slow down. No dramatic movie effect. But my brain suddenly went, "That could have been your skull. Genius." I stepped closer, careful not to get near the taped-off area. One of the janitors was sweeping up, and a couple of suits from upstairs were whispering with their hands over their mouths. Someone, probably Gina, had already taken photos. People love documenting disasters. Was anyone? I asked. No one under it, Carl said. Lucky timing. Could have killed someone. I laughed. Not because it was funny. More like the kind of laugh you do when someone almost rear-ends you on the highway. A nervous, ugly little laugh. Yeah, I muttered. Lucky. When I finally walked inside through the side door Carl opened for employees, everything was weirdly quiet. Usually by 9:15, the office was a hive, printers whining, people yelling across cubicles, someone heating fish in the break room like a war crime. But not today. Today, it was like the entire floor was holding its breath. Gina spotted me first. She was leaning against her cubicle, coffee in hand, eyes wide. Oh my God, Tom, she blurted out. Where the hell were you? I dropped my bag on my chair. Missed the bus. What? You didn't see? You would have been right under it. Right under it. I got the memo, I said, pointing toward the entrance. Carl gave me the grand tour. She shook her head. I swear, I thought it was you. When the thing fell, I just froze. I kept thinking Tom always comes in at 8:58. I mean, who else is that on time? Clockwork Tom, I said, forcing a smile. Exactly. Then Dave from accounting poked his head over the cubicle wall. Tom's alive, he said, grinning like the jerk he was. Very much, I replied. Sorry to ruin your day. I already told Karen she might get her desk, he said. Touch my stapler, and I'll haunt you. I got a few chuckles from nearby desks. Tension relief, I guess. People deal with almost tragedies weirdly. Some cry. Some joke. I joke. For the next hour, the building felt like the aftermath of a storm. The maintenance guys roped off the entrance. Managers huddled in serious little circles pretending they were disaster response experts. And employees whispered like they were in a church. Everyone had their own version of the story already. I heard the wire snapped. No, it was loose for weeks. I told them it creaked, but no one listened. Typical. Tragedy almost happens, and suddenly everyone's a prophet. I tried to work, but my brain wouldn't cooperate. I kept glancing at the lobby through the glass wall, picturing myself standing there at 8:58, holding my badge, maybe checking my phone. Then, boom, that thought looped again and again like a bad song. At some point, my boss, Martin, called me into his office. Now, Martin's a tall, calm guy with the permanent energy of someone who used to meditate and then gave up halfway through. He never raises his voice, but when he talks, you listen, or at least pretend to. Close the door, Tom, he said. I did. He leaned back in his chair. You were late today. Yeah, I said. Alarm broke. Bus was late. Double whammy. He nodded slowly. You know, I don't usually say this, but I'm glad. Glad I suck at being on time. Glad you're still here. I stared at him for a second. Martin's not a sentimental guy. The last time he said something remotely emotional was when he congratulated someone on their baby with good job. You reproduced. He pointed toward the lobby. That thing weighs, what, 100 pounds? More? You'd have been right under it. Yeah, I said. I know. You should buy a lottery ticket. Already considered it. He gave a half smile. You ever think how weird it is? How 5 minutes can make the difference between standing here and being carried out on a stretcher? I didn't answer right away. What do you even say to that? Yeah, cool story, boss. Thanks for the existential crisis. He sighed. Go home early today. What? Yeah, you're not going to get anything done anyway. Take the rest of the day. Breathe. So I did. I left the building around noon. Carl gave me a nod as I passed. Careful out there, Tom, he said. Yeah, I replied. I'll keep an eye out for falling satellites, too. He laughed, and I walked toward the bus stop. It felt strange, like the day didn't belong to me anymore. Like someone had swapped out my regular Wednesday for a borrowed one. When I got home, Steve jumped onto the couch like I'd been gone for weeks. I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat down, and stared at the wall for a long time, not thinking anything specific, just sitting. Later that evening, Gina texted me a photo. It was the broken chandelier, shards everywhere, yellow tape around it like a crime scene. Underneath, she wrote, 5 minutes, Tom. Just 5. I didn't reply right away. Over the next few weeks, the incident became the story at work. People told it like they were all there, like they all saw the chandelier falling in slow motion. I heard at least 5 different versions. In one, Carl heroically dove to push an imaginary person out of the way. In another, the building shook like an earthquake. And in one particularly ridiculous retelling, the chandelier exploded. But the truth was simple. A wire gave out. A piece of glass and metal fell. And I just happened to not be there. One Friday, during lunch, Dave leaned over his tray of suspicious-looking lasagna and said, "You ever think about it?" "What?" "You know," he said, making vague hand gestures. "If you'd been there." "Not really," I lied. "Man, I would have been traumatized." "You're traumatized when a coffee machine runs out of filters." Fair point. I smirked, but his question stuck with me longer than I wanted. Do I think about it? Yeah, all the time. But I don't say it out loud. Because once you start talking about what ifs, it's like opening a door you can't close. The maintenance team eventually replaced the chandelier with some modern LED panels. They were safer, apparently. People still glanced up when they walked in, though. That instinct didn't go away. Even Martin, the unflappable Zen master, started using the side door more often. And me? I started setting 2 alarms. But here's the part no one tells you. When something like that happens, something you almost didn't walk away from, your brain doesn't throw a party because you survived. It doesn't say, "Good job, champ, here's a medal." It just quietly rewrites the way you move through the world. I noticed little things. I lingered a second longer at intersections. I looked up at ceilings. I left 5 minutes earlier for everything. Which, yes, is ironic, consider what happened. I also started talking more to people I'd normally ignore. Like the old guy at the bus stop. His name's Frank, by the way. He's a retired mechanic with too many stories about carburetors. We started grabbing coffee once a week after work. I never would have done that before. One evening a few months later, Frank and I were sitting outside a coffee shop. He stirred his drink like it owed him money. "You know," he said, "I heard about your chandelier thing." I raised an eyebrow. "Small town gossip?" "Nah, you told me, remember?" "Right." He leaned back. "I had a friend once. Missed a flight by 10 minutes. Plane crashed. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't." Frank nodded slowly. He said it messed with his head. Not the crash. The 10 minutes. I finally asked, "What did he do?" "Lived," Frank said simply, and then stopped asking why. I think about that a lot. People expect these moments to turn you into someone new. Like you'll wake up the next day and start writing poetry, or climbing mountains, or adopting orphans. But that's not how it works. You don't change overnight. You just start noticing things more. Like the way the sun hits the street at 8:58 in the morning. Or the sound a ceiling makes when it's too quiet. Or the fact that a stupid broken alarm clock can save your life. The weirdest part came about a year later. HR decided to do this safety presentation, to show they care about employees not getting crushed by falling decor. They set up a projector in the break room, brought in some guy in a polo shirt with facilities embroidered on it, and made everyone sit through a slideshow of safety tips. And then they showed the photo. My photo. Well, not me, but the chandelier, the one that didn't kill me. "Always report loose fixtures," the guy said cheerfully. "You never know whose life you might save." I was in the back, sipping cold coffee, listening to coworkers whisper. "That's the one that almost got Tom." Yeah, can you imagine? I heard it barely missed a pregnant woman. Dude, there was no pregnant woman. The facilitator kept talking about maintenance schedules and inspections, but all I could think about was that morning. Me standing there, half awake, badge in hand, waiting for the doors to unlock. And then, nothing. I didn't say a word during the presentation. But when it was over, Martin walked past me, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Still glad you were late." "Me too," I said. "Here's the thing. I'm not special. I didn't outsmart fate. I didn't heroically dodge anything. I just missed my bus." Some people survive because they run fast. Some survive because they're strong. Me? I survived because my alarm clock died. I still think about it, though. Not in a dark, obsessive way. More like a quiet reminder. A small voice that says, "Pay attention." 5 minutes matter. Every time I pass through those lobby doors, I look up. Not because I'm scared, but because I can. And that, weirdly enough, feels like a privilege. People ask me sometimes if that moment changed my life. And my answer is, not in the way they expect. I didn't quit my job. I didn't travel the world. I didn't become a motivational speaker. I still work in the same cubicle, still drink the same bad coffee, still ride that slow bus with Frank and the kid who thinks volume controls are optional. But now, every once in a while, I'll catch myself just pausing, looking at the clock, feeling the air. 5 minutes late saved my life. And yeah, that's one hell of a reason to set 2 alarms. A couple months after the HR presentation, Gina caught me by the coffee machine. She had that mischievous smile she always gets when she's about to say something stupid. "You ever think," she said, "maybe you were meant to be late?" I roll my eyes. "Oh God, don't start with fake crap. I'm just saying, yo, maybe I was meant to get a better alarm clock." She laughed. "Fine, but still kind of crazy. It is, I admitted, but let's not make it a movie." "Too late," she said. "I already cast Brad Pitt as you." I snorted. "He's too tall." That's the beauty of it, though. Life-changing moments aren't cinematic. They're stupid and random and wrapped in cheap alarm clocks and broken buses. And sometimes, that's all it takes to keep you alive. I used to think being 5 minutes late was a bad thing. Now, it's the reason I'm still here, drinking bad coffee with Gina, rolling my eyes at Dave, listening to Frank talk about carburetors, and feeding Steve. 5 minutes. That's all it was. And it changed everything.